Alrighty, I think we're going to get going. We're missing a couple of counselors. Are they back there? Where is Frank, Ray, and John Buchema? Okay, well, it is 6:30. We're gonna get going. There they are. Okay. All right, I'm gonna call us to order. It is 6:30, so reconvening our meeting. Sorry, and I'm just gonna ask the gallery we're gonna start. Okay, I will start with the town of Smithers acknowledges the Gidimt'en clan and the Wet'suwet'en people on whose unceded traditional territory we live, work, and play. Welcome, everyone. Nice always to see lots of faces in the gallery. The public is notified that this meeting is being recorded and webcast, a notice of which is on the bulletin board outside these chambers. Council, motion to approve the agenda, please. Councillor Buchema, Councillor Leonard, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay, this evening we have two delegations. So first delegation, Mr. Kindrat, I'm just going to invite you up. So we have a presentation from Mr. Kindrat regarding the active transportation plan. And we've already chatted, but just for the benefit of folks in the gallery, generally we have a total period of about 15 minutes, generally about 10 for the presentation and a few minutes for questions. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. And if you get too long, we'll give you a cue. How's that? Okay, so welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Alan Kindrat. I'm a transportation engineer. I work for WSP here in Smithers. I've been heavily involved in the Cycle 16 project for the last 5 years and many other town projects like the Main Street Multi-Use Path and the Princess Street project. But I'm not here tonight as an engineer or an employee of WSP. I'm here as a resident of the town of Smithers. I was born here. I chose to raise my family here. I've got 2 young children. I'm an advocate for active transportation, and I want to see our community improved, and I want to see it become safer and more accessible for our children and people all ages of abilities. And so that's why I'm here. First, I'd like to start by thanking my good friend Erica Hogland, who helped lead the Third Ave Bike Lane Initiative. Without her help this summer, it wouldn't have been possible. I'd also like to thank everybody who came tonight in the gallery, both those in opposition and those that support the project. Strong community engagement is an important part of the process. I'd also like to thank all the businesses, organizations, and community members that helped drive the Third Ave Bike Lane Initiative this summer. Without their support, we wouldn't have been able to pull this off. And finally, I'd like to thank the town of Smithers. The town has made some incredible progress on the active transportation network in the last 5 years. I'm really proud of what the town has been able to achieve and grateful that I've been able to be a part of it. I think it's amazing. So thank you. We'll move on to the next slide. While I'm sure that everyone at the table here is familiar with the project timeline, one thing that we learned through the Third Ave Bike Lane Initiative is that not everybody is. And so I'm going to walk through the timeline briefly. Starting in 2019, the town adopted their active transportation network plan. Through public consultation, a number of projects were identified. The Third Ave Bike Lane project was the top priority in the plan, and in 2020, council earmarked 20,000 in their capital plan to move the project forward. In 2023, the town of Smithers received 2 grants for a total of 30,000, which were intended for a conceptual design study and public consultation. Earlier this year, that funding was intended to be used for a study, but it was effectively canceled by council at a vote of 4-3 with the grant funding returned. I was incredibly disappointed by this decision, as were many others in the community. My friend Eric and we met with community groups to see if somebody would champion the project, to see the level of support within the community for the project. When we were unsuccessful in this, we decided to start the Third Ave Bike Lane Initiative. And we spent our own time and our own money on a volunteer basis to run this initiative. We procured a conceptual design for Third Avenue protected bike lanes. We developed information pamphlets and posters and petitions to build support and ultimately to communicate that level of support to council so that they can make a more informed decision on the future of the project. The study would have looked at multiple routes through the downtown core, including 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Avenue. And it also would have included robust public engagement. So businesses, property owners, and the broader public would have been engaged on the project to help determine what the best route would be and to solicit feedback and input from everybody on the project. Next slide, please. So why protected bike lanes? Well, protected bike lanes are critical if we want infrastructure that is safe and accessible for people all ages and abilities. The downtown of Smithers is very congested and there are barely room for the vehicles themselves. If you want to pass through downtown by bike, you either have to bike on the street where there's very little room and your safety could be in jeopardy, or you've got a bike on the sidewalk, which people get upset with. And so having all ages and abilities separated infrastructure is key for us to actually try and have a modal shift from motor vehicles to cycling. And if we can actually have a modal shift where people choose to bike as opposed to drive, then we can actually meet some of our climate action goals through emission reductions. And it's also well known that the more people that cycle and pass through the downtown by bike, the more people will stop and step into businesses that they maybe weren't planning on going to. And so that there are direct economic benefits to having cycle routes through downtown cores. Next slide, please. So why 3rd Avenue? Well, 3rd Avenue is the direct east to west spine through the downtown. It has the highest density of community places or destinations like the pool, the skate park, multiple schools, the future public library. So with all of these locations on 3rd Avenue, it is clearly the most direct route for cyclists to be taking to pass through downtown. If you live in Ambleside and you want to get to the pool, well, you're going to take 3rd Ave. If you live on the west side of town, you want to go to Chandler Park soccer fields, 3rd Avenue is your choice. Next slide, please. We got the question, well, why not 2nd? Why not 4th? And to address that, I want to say we're not opposed to protected bike lanes on 2nd or 4th Avenue. And in fact, the town's study would have looked at those routes. And if the town study determined that those were the best routes based on the public consultation, then we wouldn't be here right now and we would be supportive of that decision. But we're not. And we led the initiative. And so we led with what we felt was the best solution for the community. And we feel that is 3rd Avenue. 4th Avenue is complicated. It has a one-way on half of it, and it's not the most direct route. 2nd Avenue would detour cyclists south, further from the destinations that they're seeking. And the railway bike lane is great, but it's simply too far from downtown for it to be effective. Next slide, please. So who did we engage as part of the 3rd Ave Bike Lane Initiative? We engaged the public, we engaged businesses and property owners and community organizations. Next slide, please. Throughout the summer, we were at a number of public events, such as Go by Bike Work Week stations. We were at the bikery events out at Rustica. We were at Pride. And we were also had a presence at many businesses downtown where we had information pamphlets, posters, and our petitions. We also started a Facebook and an Instagram account to share the initiative and also create a space where people could discuss the project and the importance of active transportation in our community. We also engaged with 32 businesses directly, nearly all of the businesses and property owners on 3rd Avenue between King and Queen. And we engaged with over 12 community groups. Next slide, please. So what did we hear? Well, one, we found that there is very strong support for this project. We collected over 583 signatures and over 22 letters of support from businesses and organizations. We do acknowledge that some of our petition signatures are duplicates, as we had both physical and online signatures. We did get some people signing the petition twice, but regardless of that, we are confident that we can show that there's a strong faction of the community that feel that this project is important and that the town should be prioritizing it. common feedback that we received was that people wanted to see the downtown congestion issue addressed, and that Third Avenue is not safe, and that protected bike lanes for people to pass through downtown is an important thing to improve safety and accessibility. Next slide, please. We also got very meaningful input and feedback from businesses on Third Avenue, which we very much appreciate the time that those individuals took to provide that feedback and for coming here tonight. What we heard often was that removal of street parking would be detrimental to their business operations. And I think that's the kind of feedback that's really important when trying to decide how to design a project or whether or not a project should be on this street or that street. And so the input and feedback that we received from those businesses was very important. And I think that a well thought out design that incorporates that feedback could find solutions to many of the issues or problems that were raised. Next slide, please. So what did we learn? Well, we learned that Third Avenue is congested and has safety issues. Nearly everyone that we talked to agreed on that point. Not everybody agreed as to what the proper solution is, but everyone could agree that safety and congestion was an issue on Third. Third Avenue, when full on-street parking is utilized, barely has room for vehicles to pass each other. And so I think everybody can acknowledge that Third Avenue needs some level of improvement, but what that looks like is kind of up for debate. We also learned that the community strongly values active transportation. This was a very strong showing of support, and I don't want that to be, I want that to be acknowledged. We also learned that businesses are concerned about the impacts of their operations, which is a very valid and fair thing. And we want to acknowledge that. And we also want to take that feedback and we want to build from it. And a planning study would have allowed us to find the solutions to these challenges. Next slide, please. I'm cutting into question time now, but I also wanted to take a moment to dream bigger because I didn't want tonight to be just about talking about a project that the town was planning on implementing 5 years ago. I wanted to talk about the future of the community and how we can build a stronger active transportation network. A network, in fact, is only as strong as its weakest link. And right now, there is no direct route for cyclists to get into the downtown or out of the downtown. And with the Main Street multi-use path taking cyclists to Highway 16 and Main Street, I think that bidirectional bike lanes on Main Street to Third Avenue would be an incredible solution. Next slide, please. This is what it would look like, bidirectional lanes on the west side of Main Street from Highway 16 to Smithers, which would take cyclists from the highway to Third Avenue. Next slide, please. We've got a very robust active transportation network with multi-use paths on the north side of the highway, but we don't have anything to get us into downtown or out of downtown. And with these two projects combined, I think we have an incredible network that drives a lot of people into our community. Next slide, please. You can envision that everybody on the west side of the community would now have access to safe and accessible active transportation infrastructure that brings them into the downtown and then out of downtown. People that want to get on the Cycle 16 trail, people that want to go to Safeway or the farmers market would be able to use this safe and separated infrastructure. Next slide, please. People on the east side of town can now pass through downtown safely or take Third Ave and Main Street to get to the farmers market or the museum. Next slide, please. And then nearly everybody on the north side of the community who can access the new multi-use path network can now be directed to downtown. I think the impacts of this could be significant. We're talking about a world-class highway connection corridor that is going to be taking people all the way from Telkwa to Smithers, and we want to drive those people to our downtown. And I think there would be strong economic benefit from this. Next slide, please. What we're talking about is removing one lane of street from Main Street or from Third Avenue to Highway 16. So it would go from this to, next slide, please, to this. Now this would have minimal impact on parking. Of course, there would have to be a traffic study done to confirm the negative impacts that would come from removing a lane of traffic. But this would be an incredible addition to our network. And I want us to think about what what we want our community to look like 10, 20 years from now? And are we building this community to the needs of the future generations? Next slide, please. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just gonna advise the gallery as I always do. So this is a meeting for council and we have an opportunity to ask questions. So I realize you're happy with the presentation, but I'm just gonna urge you to control cheering or jeering or clapping or anything. Thank you. So thanks for the presentation, the work you put into it. We have a few minutes, council, if you want to ask some questions for clarity or anything that you wanted to ask Mr. Kindrat. Did I see your hand? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Not a question. I just want to say great work, Alan. I hope that the next generation sees what you're doing and how you approach an issue and how you coordinate with the community. So I just want to thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to this coming back. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor Patterson. Anyone else? Okay. So because you've been here lots of times on different projects, I think you know the drill. So, yeah, thanks for the work you put in, including the folks that are here to support you. And I wanted to take note that I do appreciate that you included the letters of opposition. So I think one of the challenges that we face, as you know, is trying to find solutions that work best for the multitude of the population. What is our standard practice? Again, some of you will know this. We have a motion later on in the agenda to refer your package to staff and get some feedback for council, which would happen at the earliest the next council meeting. So one more glance around the table. If there's no comments, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Not a comment, but a question maybe about instance of traffic and bicycles on the 3rd Avenue currently. I don't know if you have any numbers on injuries or maybe you don't, but it might be something for us to consider as well. Just out of curiosity's sake, I don't know if you have that or not, but that's one of the things that in my own mind, I'm wondering about.
I do not have any statistics on injuries, but I would emphasize that we shouldn't just be looking at whether or not people are getting hurt on 3rd Avenue by creating protected bike infrastructure on 3rd Avenue. We're actually converting people who choose not to bike on 3rd currently. And I think that is a really important thing because we want to increase the number of riders in town to meet our emission reduction targets. And we can only do that by creating safe and dedicated infrastructure.
Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, we will be in touch. Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, council, we do have a second delegation and we'll just give a second for staff to switch us up because I think the second delegation is on Zoom. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just
Yes,
give us a
that's correct.
second. We're gonna change up the screen here. Okay, I think we're there. So second delegation is from Smithers Skate Park Society, and I think you were on already, but I'll repeat it anyway. We have about 10 minutes for your presentation and a few minutes for council, and I will turn it over to the reps from Smithers Skate Park. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell, and to council for agreeing to delegation. I'm Sarah Fitzmaurice, and I'm the fundraiser and project manager for the Skate Park Society. And with me is Christy Sawchuk, or McKay, sorry, and she is our vice board chair. We're coming to you with a request for an approval in principle for phase 4 of the expansion project. Can we move up to the next slide, please? We wanted to give you some highlights of phase 4. The timeline that we are proposing is between construction between May and July of 2026, and we would do that without closing the bowl and main part of the park. We have an estimated budget of $570,000. I think it's important to note that we have 60% of that in secured funding, and the remaining funding we have promissory notes, but it's not considered secured because it's not in hand. So we're I think, pretty well prepared in terms of our budget. The scope of the project. We are proposing a pump track, a shaded picnic area, and to complete the landscaping. It's important to note, I think, that these features are within the, in terms of looking at the master rec plan that the town put out, we are proposing these features within the dotted line that shows the skate park on the master rec plan. We're not looking for any kind of approval of a location for these assets outside of that. We also will be collaborating with the Off the Wet'suwet'en youth leadership, and our plan, we've been working or corresponding with Will George on this. Our plan is to enter into a community partnership agreement with the town and the Off the Wet'suwet'en youth leadership, or Moody. In the past, we've done we've been following the community partnership framework. So we now plan on entering that agreement. And then we also are, we've proposed to hold our public consultation session at Town Hall. We've made a request through Will George as well. And we will be bringing in our experts from Newline and Radius Construction. They will be holding a workshop that we will publicize. And we will invite all the user groups in to do a requirements definition workshop, but also a design brainstorming session, so that we really make sure that we have the public's input in terms of the pump track and the shaded structure. So that's what we plan to do on September 5th if we get an approval. In terms of, next slide, please. And so in terms of this phase, so this is accessibility for us is very key here. The pump track is meant to increase the footprint, and it's also opening up the park for as a more all-wheels park for bikers, but also for beginner skateboarders. And I also wanted to mention that the picnic area will have our plan is for it to have 2 wheelchair accessible benches and picnic areas. That's something that's really important to us, as well as the hardscaping aspects of the landscaping plan will also hit sort of key accessibility features. Let's see what else I can say. I think I've covered that. Next slide, please. And this is just to reiterate, we're following the community partnership framework, and that we're at that stage of requesting approval in principle from council. And I think that's it, unless my vice chair has any comments.
No, I think you've hit everything, Sarah. I appreciate you running through it quickly. I just want to note that, you know, it's the accessibility piece is very important to us, not only for like the accessible tables and what have you, but it's when we see our youth in the community that also are wheelchair accessible coming into the skate park and wanting to utilize the skate park, having a pump track gives the beginner confidence for those youth to be able to come and enjoy the skateboarders, the scooters, the biking community. And I think that's a very important transitional piece for the project.
Agreed. Well, one last point is that we've been connected to the Rick Hansen Foundation, and so we really cast the net wide to look for the experts in accessibility, and that's one of the organizations that we're going to be working with to make sure that our plan really hits all those marks and is inclusive of those users. And then next slide. So this is just our thank you, but also we wanted to show Mayor and Council a example of a pump track, and also an example of our of a shaded picnic area. Of course, these concepts won't be defined until we hold our public consultation session on September 5th, but we wanted to show you some examples. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks so much, Sarah, for the presentation. And council, so if there's any questions from council, now's the moment. Councillor Raven.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciated the emphasis on accessibility. For those with mobility challenges, having a space that is ready for them to access is so incredibly important. So I just really appreciate that. And especially, it's not the perhaps typical location that people would think about. When you think skateboard park, you automatically kind of write off people with mobility barriers. So I just really appreciate that you guys are putting this in, because everyone should be welcome in every space. So that I just think is some really good planning. I love that you reached out to the Chris Hansen Foundation. So just, it's great to see that thought go into this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Raven. Anyone else? I have a couple. One thing, when you're talking about phase 4, I'm curious, was this part of the original plan or is this now a new plan? I just don't remember.
Mhm. So the features of the shaded picnic area and the pump track were not included in the original proposal. That's why we've gone sort of back to the approval and principle phase. The landscaping was, the hardscaping and softscaping, it will be as approved by council in 2022.
Okay. And then when I look at the little drawing of what it could look like, the drawing on the left, that is the skate park. What I notice is that it's really doesn't include, when you're talking about the landscaping, like it's devoid of trees, of shade. Can you just comment on that?
Yes, I mean, we've chosen images that highlight the feature rather than, we didn't put them in the context of our park. So that's something that we could follow up with, or we could reference the previous plan.
Okay, that's fine. I just, when I saw it as this, I wondered if this is exactly like what you want it to look like, which looks like all
Oh, no.
concrete, no green. Okay, thanks
No,
for the clarification.
Okay, I just wanted to mention, we have been meeting with town staff regarding the grass and the angle of incline, and so every feature will be as directed, meaning that it will be mowable.
Okay.
And with limited weed whacking, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Those were the questions for clarification for me, just to understand what's in front of me. And I'll just glance around the table again in case there was anyone else. Okay, and you also know the drill because it's not your first time here. So we have a motion on the agenda later, recommending that we refer this back to staff and we get sort of some information back either at the next meeting or whenever the right time is. But we heard your deadline or your timeline for public engagement. So I did notice that. Okay, thanks so much. If there was something
Thank
else, Sarah,
you.
go ahead.
No, thank you so much.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for your work and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay, just a moment to reorganize myself. Okay, so where we are is at the public comment period in the agenda. And so if there is someone here who wants to speak to an item that is on the agenda, that's your caveat, that there is an opportunity to speak to council, but just reference the item that's on the agenda in order to do that. And if you have something, I invite you to the delegation table and you have 3 minutes. Come on up. Messrs. Banstra, come on up. And I think you've been here before, but I'm not sure. So just press the little round button, the mic will go red. And if you don't mind, for the record, just stating your name and where you live. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Council. My name is Theo Banstra, currently located at 4548 Alfred. And I read this, I think it'll be 3 minutes.
And
So, yeah.
sorry, also I know why you're here, but if you just don't mind telling us the topic.
Oh, yes, sorry, I'm going to reference the 3rd Avenue Bike Lane delegation. So yeah, thank you, Council. I'd like to respond to the 3rd Avenue Bike Lane delegation and address some of the information I believe is misleading or incomplete. The delegation cited a statistic claiming raised bike lanes reduce collisions by 90%. While this may be true in ideal uninterrupted conditions, as the rosy photo depicts, it does not reflect the reality here. Between King and Queen, there are over 20 breaks for streets, back alleys, parking lots, and other access points. These constant interruptions would create more conflict, not less, and give cyclists a false sense of safety in one of the busiest sections of downtown. Rather than improving safety, it could increase risk. The plan's stated goal to, quote, alleviate congestion, end of quote, is essentially a plan to divert traffic. I would note congestion is a negative word that describes why Third Avenue is so vibrant and active. Those vehicles are not just traffic. They are parents with children, seniors, contractors, and others who need to be there. This traffic is essential to downtown's vibrancy and the businesses that depend on it. Discouraging them will have economic consequences. There are better alternatives. Second Avenue is better suited for an east-west bike corridor, boasting access to SSS, Dogwood Park, the college, Alpine Estates seniors housing, businesses like Bugwood Bean and McBike, as well as a controlled crossing at King Street, which would draw cycling traffic away from rather than toward the already congested 3rd and King Street intersection. The claim that a short 2-block section will transform cycling habits is unrealistic. The rest of 3rd Avenue would remain unchanged, and cyclists would likely continue their casual meandering routes since Smithers is not difficult to navigate on bike. The presentation's petition and support letters are based on a one-sided narrative. Many sign to be agreeable, and most supporting businesses are not located on 3rd Avenue and would not feel the direct impacts. Financially, the cost of this project would far outweigh the returned $20,000 grant mentioned. Installing this lane would require tearing up sidewalks, streets, curb, and services in good condition, sending hundreds of tons of asphalt and concrete to the landfill. Taxpayers would bear a significant cost, either directly or through a diverted resource funds from the Resource Benefit Alliance. Regrettably, this all started with an ATP that named and claimed 3rd Avenue as a foregone conclusion, creating tunnel vision for all future participants that 3rd is the only way forward. Case in point, the delegation is named the 3rd Avenue Bike Lane Initiative. However, even their opening remarks highlight the primary goal is simply a protected east-west bike connection through the heart of downtown. Finally, this matter has already been reviewed and voted down by council. I strongly urge a motion amending the active transportation plan to exclude 3rd Avenue between King and Queen. This will protect access to vital downtown services, medical offices, the post office, retailers, the brewery, while allowing us to pursue bike infrastructure that is safer, more practical, and more widely supported. Thank you, and thank you for letting me apparently go over.
Thanks, Mr. Huesman. No, I called you Mr. Huesman because there's a Theo Huesman. Sorry, Mr. Bouncer. So I forgot who you were despite the fact that I mixed up the two, I know. Okay, and I saw the other Mr. Bouncer, whose name I hope I don't muck up. And you saw this, I was supposed to say it ahead of time, so there's going to be the yellow card and the red card. Thanks.
My name is Mark Banstra, and I'm from 1120 Ambleside in Smithers, and a lifelong resident. I just have a few remarks to council on the 3rd Avenue cycling route that's in the agenda. We did have a letter that was included in the agenda from both Theo and myself. In addition to the points in our letter, there's some important realities that aren't being addressed. First, the fixation on 3rd Avenue simply because it's a straight line overlooks the fact that of all possible routes, 3rd is the one that should be excluded entirely. It is too busy, too developed. Some of the developments are there because of the on-street parking availability and has the highest number of ingresses and egresses in town, 20 at the last count. This eliminates the safety advantage of separating cyclists from vehicles, in effect removing the protection of the protected bike lanes. On top of that, large delivery trucks, including semis serving the post office, must regularly cross both lanes, both bicycle lanes if they're built, and the boulevards And some of them even need the far sidewalk to rest their front tires on to be able to back in and load into the post office. With online shopping, that post office is now one of the busiest spots in town. Another consideration must be the cost of this particular plan. We're talking about valuable taxpayer money at a time when the community has many other pressing needs. Is this really the priority? A facility that will be used only half the year, that will create a winter maintenance headache, and that will require annual costly repairs when concrete curbs inevitably get damaged by snow plows and loaders. I think we can do better in providing cycling safety without this enormous cost. Has anyone priced this out, by the way? I'm guessing it to be $1 million plus, if not two, for these 2 blocks. Third, we already have an excellent east-west cycling route, the railway corridor, which runs the length of town with 0 intersections, the ultimate in cycling safety. From Toronto Street, which is wide and safe for cyclists, cyclists can take the bike lane on Railway Avenue to King Street, which already has bike lanes on both sides, or they can follow the perimeter trail to the crossing at the Ball Diamonds and reach Ambleside within minutes. And obviously can go back the other way in the same way. If council is looking to advance this project, the letter from FYI Doctors Lester and Creaky, I hope I have that pronounced correctly, along with the letter from Home Hardware, contains more practical solutions. And I encourage council to review those suggestions. FYI suggested a more practical and less costly plan that also has some merit no matter what avenue the route takes. The takeaway here is that support for better cycling infrastructure doesn't have to mean putting it on 3rd Avenue. If the 2nd Avenue option had been promoted instead, I believe the same level of public support that we just saw in the delegation would have been achieved. Both cyclists and 3rd Avenue businesses can be accommodated through compromise. The delegation themselves stated that they wanted to be clear they are not opposed to protected bike lanes on other east-west connectors, such as 2nd or 4th Avenue. Given all this, I'm asking council to clearly state via motion that any future cycling plan will exclude 3rd Avenue between King and Queen from consideration. Council has already turned down this route once. It should not keep resurfacing. Thank you, and thank you for the extension in time.
Thanks, Mr. Banstra. Okay, it's still the comment period. If anyone wants to speak to an item on the agenda, I invite you to the table. I'm going to return to the agenda. Thanks, everyone. Okay, council, we're going back to the agenda and we are at item 8. We're going into the minutes. First up, 8.1, the regular minutes from July 22nd for approval, please. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Ray, any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. And 8.2, Committee of the Whole minutes from July 15th for approval, please. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Raven, any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. And item 9, Ms. Smith, I believe you have an item for release. I'm going to take all that back. We haven't finished that meeting. We'll bring that back next time. Okay, let's jump up to council reports. First up, Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Mayor Attrell. Summer's often a slower time for council, so I just wanted to mention that I had 2 opportunities to help out at St. James Anglican Soup Kitchen, once on July 26th and once on August 9th. On the 26th, Councillor Raven and I did it together. And I just want to thank some of the area churches too for making sure that there's a place people can go to for a hot meal on both Saturdays and Sundays, days when there's nothing available within town. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Buchanan. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard.
My turn. It was a quiet few weeks for sure. I'll echo that. Last Tuesday, August 5th, we did, however, have our first Minerals North 2026 Organizing Committee meeting. So that is off to a start, and we'll be meeting monthly until January, and then bi-monthly up to the conference in May. So I'm excited about that. And while we haven't had a museum meeting, Kira asked me to let everybody know that the museum will be presenting a new traveling exhibition on loan from the Royal BC Museum from August 14th to November 14th, titled Hope Meets Action, Echoes Through the Black Continuum. And the exhibit explores the history and contributions of Black British Columbians, to our province's history. And the presentation is supported also by the Bulkley Valley Community Foundation. So if you can get down to the museum starting Thursday, do that.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. Just minutes from the Fall Fair Management Committee held on July 21st for information.
Thanks. Did I mix something? Are the community safety minutes here too?
Yes, they are, Your Worship.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I left something in my package from the last time. Okay. If there's any questions for Councillor Patterson. Okay, thank you. Councillor Raven.
So I attended the fish welcoming ceremony in Whitsett on the 25th. And I believe this was the biggest attendance they have ever had. There were hundreds of people there. There was drumming, celebration, salmon, and nuis. So that's soap berries, which is one of my personal favorites. And I just really encourage, because it is open to everyone in the public, is if you can next year, come out, check it out. It is a really good afternoon. Then on the 26th, I was at the St. James Soup Kitchen along with Councillor Buchema. Then I did go to Terrace for Riverboat Days, and I got to see the Skeena Salmon Art Show. And one of the interesting things is because Smithersville is up with that at our gallery. So Nicole, our manager, she goes out there and we can't bring the whole show. So she actually has to go through and has the difficult job of seeing which ones she wants to bring to Smithers. So I did not envy her. And then I did the Ride the Sky on Hudson Bay Mountain. And then last week I was invited to the Buddy Up program. So I stopped by that. And that is a program for seniors. They get together bi-weekly. It's grant funded. And it's about building community and relationships. So they get together, they have lunch. Then there's always an information session. There's also singing. And it's just really good to see a focus on getting seniors out of the house in a really good way. Sometimes that can be a bit difficult. So they're set up in tables of 4. They don't get to pick who they sit with. So it's actually makes everyone kind of get to know each other a bit better. So just a shout out to Anjali and her team of volunteers that have put that together, and it runs all summer.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Councillor Ray.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. The usual documents are in behind my name. So the strategic priorities list and the activity report from me. If there's questions, I can take them and we'll move on. Okay, let's go to the staff reports. So 14.1, and it is just on the agenda sheet, and it relates to the first delegation, Mr. Kindrat. And there is a recommendation that we ask staff to provide us with the feedback report. Someone wants to put that on the table. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Raven, any discussion? Councillor Ray?
I'll vote against it. I made the mistake of getting drawn into the broader discussion last time. My original point was that we don't have time for staff to do this. We're going to be asked to go through the project list and we all want them done, and we're going to have to take some off already. I think from the presentation tonight, I think before we do anything to downtown, we need a downtown plan. Otherwise, we are just going to be moving things around, moving problems around. And I think that's, it's got to address parking, it's got to address traffic flow, that sort of stuff. And that's something that we can't do this term.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Okay, Councillor Patterson, then Councillor Buchema.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. I want to respect the process and that I'm only supposed to speak if I'm going to vote in opposition, but I just want to be respectful of those who came out today. So I'll just say the reason why I would like to see staff come back, and this is how I had voted originally, is just to do that assessment of what makes sense for our community. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I've bought a home in the last 3.5 years at one of the busiest intersections here in town. So that's at Queen Street, at the lights there right next to Tim Hortons. And I am appalled at the near misses that I see every single day, both by vehicle safety and bicycle safety. And I've stopped riding my bike in Smithers just because the amount of times that I've actually been, honestly, I've had to push myself off of vehicles because I've almost been hit multiple times. Every time I see a young family riding with their children, my heart just drops because all I can think about is how I want to keep them safe. So I'm really proud of this council and staff and how much they've invested in active transportation and safety, but I think we have a long way to go. So again, I would just like to see the information come back and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bucama, and then Councillor Elliott. Yep.
Thanks, Mayor Atchell. I'm going to be a no vote as well. In my mind, democracy is a complicated thing. And yes, we had 400 or 500 signatures on a petition, but I've also had numerous citizens who've come to me since that 4-3 vote, thanking me for the way I voted, saying that's just too busy, a 2-block section. And I also want to say that the letter from FYI Clinic spoke volumes to me as well in terms of it not being the best route. I would vote for 2nd Avenue in a heartbeat. I am not opposed to active transportation. I've stated that very clearly. I am just not sold on that 2-block stretch. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bucama, Councillor Elliott, and Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add to what the other councillors have said, that I am not against active transportation, but with what we are seeing lately, I don't think we have the capacity to take this on right at the moment. I do have concerns about the traffic with the businesses on that street, but I will be voting against the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Raven, and then Councillor Leonard.
So I'm looking forward to getting the report. And the one thing I want to emphasize that was emphasized originally is that it isn't about focusing on 3rd Ave. It was focusing on a study to see what worked the best and having that non-biased approach and looking at downtown core as a whole. I don't know if 3rd Ave is right. I don't know if 2nd Ave is right. I don't know what the best course of action is, but that's what that study would have done. And this would have been the opportunity for people to provide that feedback, because I do believe in democracy and having people come out and say yay or nay. I don't know, because we did turn down the grant funding, so that was significant. But I would like to see what the staff report has to say and what options are on the table before I just vote it down right off the top. I want to see what information can be brought back.
Thanks, Councillor Raven, Councillor Leonard.
I will also be voting no. Simply for all the reasons I voted no last time. The biggest one is cost. Yes, the study might be 20,000, but the cost to actually implement a protected bike lane across town or just in that 2-block section will be huge. And I appreciate the work that went into this study. Councillor Elliott asked one of the questions I had about, just if there were any statistics for accidents, and that wasn't in the report. And, I'm not opposed. I ride bikes all the time. I am an active transportation participant. I think it's not a priority for our town, and it shouldn't be for right now. They're not in a position to take this task on. And but the main reason I'm saying no is due to cost.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Probably won't come as a surprise. Things are sort of rolling the same way they did the last time. Because I think I also viewed the proposal the last time, and what this is an opportunity for information. And there's a couple of things that were said tonight in the various delegations. One is, to conduct an engagement to figure out what's possible, that, what's the next steps in the active transportation plan? Or are we not interested in it at all? And so it feels like we've come to a full stop on 2 blocks when it seems to me that what I've heard across the board is that there's interest in a spine, some way to get across town. And if we don't actually conduct engagement, if we don't try to figure out what the best route is, we're never going to get there. And where we seem to be stuck is not wanting to get information in case it's Third Avenue. I think we talked the last time, whenever that was, is if council had indicated fairly strongly that Third Avenue wasn't their preference, and yet somehow we can't get past that piece to say, but we're interested in providing active transportation, and that seems to be where we are now. So the vote's going to go. This is to ask staff for information, but the question of curiosity for council is, if, as Councillor Leonard has said, you just don't support it, there's a cost attached, that's fine. But how do we work with residents and our staff to figure out what are we going to do with active transportation if we're unwilling to get any more information and consider alternate routes? So this recommendation is asking for information, seeing what staff recommend. Our active transportation plan is a few years old. One option is we revisit it, even if that doesn't happen this term, giving some sense that we might be interested in that in the future versus we don't want to talk about it. And I think that's where we're stuck. And I find that really disappointing that we can't figure it out. So if it's just, we're stuck, we don't want to, we're not going to talk about it. That's one thing, but I'm hearing councillors say they're not that opposed to active transportation. They're opposed to Third Avenue. So there is a way through that. But if we simply say we're not going to talk about it anymore, there's no way through it. So motion's on the floor. I've said quite a bit. If anyone wants to speak, we'll go around the motion on, and then we are going to vote, and I'll just go around. Councillor Ray.
Yeah, so I do want to go back to that. I mean, I'm hearing some of the debate, but I do want to go back to the capacity piece. This was in the active transportation plan, but if you look at all the active transportation we've added in town since then, it jumped the queue maybe. And we've gotten into a point in our term where we're not able to do some things that we think are important. Active transportation might be one of them. Taking this project on, taking the consultation on. I'm not hammering home on this, but I wanted to see the riverbank armored for 4 years, and it hasn't moved along because of senior levels of government, but we've pretty much given up on it because we don't have time to keep the staff after it. We don't have time for the staff to give us briefing notes to go to the government. So it's not just this thing. And I think that's where I want to be perfectly clear. Maybe this is something that gets tackled next term by a new council that choose to prioritize different things, not even different things. I mean, this was one of our priorities, was the active transportation plan, but we bit off a little more than we can chew. We're getting to that time, and I don't think it was the wrong thing to do, but I don't want all the work to have people go away and go, oh, we're just never going to do this. We can pull this report out when it comes time to do it, but I really think that we're going to have some difficult decisions on other things that maybe aren't as shiny or popular. And there may be a couple of popular things that we don't have time to do in the rest of this term. So council is going to be having those difficult discussions. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows from my piece that I'm very aware of staff capacities.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. And if it's okay with council, I'm just going to go this way. And if you don't want to speak, you don't have to, but Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor Atchell. So I just want to say that public safety is one of my top priorities, and I want to provide the highest level of service in order to do that. I'm not in favor of Third Avenue. I want to see us do an assessment, and that our role as council is to plan for the future. That's what we've been instructed to do. And that's what I'm doing. We have RBA funding. Now is the time to invest in our future. We're not agreeing to say this is what we're going to do. It's just for information. I can't think of a better time and when we would do this, just given the regional benefit agreement funding that's available to us. And I'm appalled, like I agree with Councillor Ray in that I'm appalled at the current state of driving in our downtown core. Every other alternative street that I take, even driving in my vehicle now, I'm in the middle of the road or I'm waiting for someone. There's no room for bicycles. I can't even imagine a child with a souped up truck. It terrifies me. So I just think if not now, when? I really, really encourage everyone to think about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Bucama.
Thanks, Mayor Attrell. There's a part of me that could support a study if I knew Third Avenue was not a foregone conclusion. But even when I listened to Mr. Kindrat's presentation tonight, and it was a very good presentation, but the gist of it was Third Avenue is the way to go. And I'm just not convinced of that. And I've heard many residents tell me that same thing. If I knew the study would happen and Third Avenue was not a foregone conclusion, I would have no problem voting for a study.
Thanks, Councillor Bucama. Councillor Raven.
So I am keenly aware of congestion in our downtown. I have a 1-ton full-size dually truck, very aware of how difficult it is to navigate, but that doesn't stop me from understanding that we need to have options available. And I don't believe that Third Ave is a foregone conclusion. Even in the original staff report, it said that we will study the downtown. So we have the capacity for a study that would be hiring a consultant to get some information back. It's not saying Third Ave, because this was brought forward before, but previously, and we're not building it this year. We're not building it likely next year. But what we will have is a study with information so that when funding comes available and there's active transportation funding available from all levels of government, we will have the information so we can have a design and access that funding to create safe passage through our downtown. We may even be able to leverage RBA to access that funding. So when something comes up down the road and we want to pull the report out, when the time comes to do it, we won't have a report to pull out because we will be voting it down. So I support getting the study done, fully knowing that that's going to take time. And the report or the motion on the floor is to get the report back. And we need that information from staff to then decide if we want to move forward. So I fully support that and just getting the information so we can look at it again and make an informed decision.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Councillor Elliott.
I don't have much to share other than I do agree with Councillor Ray with the points he made that staff capacity at this point. I think we really don't have time to do this right now. There's a lot on the plate, and whether we do a study or not, I don't know if it matters at this point, but I think we got to look, maybe, you know, everyone talks about the next council, whoever that's going to be. Maybe they revisit it then, but I'm not satisfied right now to do that.
Thanks, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Leonard.
I just realized I had my mic on this whole time, sorry. So listening to all the comments, Councillor Patterson's almost swayed me. The protected bike lane is an issue for me because it will cost. It's an increase in services, as we've all learned in the last few days, and that's ongoing, that's in perpetuity. So I struggle with that. If you know, again, I'm an active person, so I would be supportive of a study to not just kill the active transportation plan and maybe amend it. Capacity is an issue. It's not something that I think we can take on. And maybe Mr. Dewar could talk about that, but I mean, we've all been hearing it. And so maybe it is something that we can debate or talk about in our strategic priorities down the road. whether we would take on a study that might include an active or a bike lane, unprotected bike lane route through town. As other counselors have said tonight, Smithers is easy to navigate, and I'm pretty proud of the fact of the money and the projects we have actually approved in the spirit of active transportation. This one is just really hard for me because it will be a huge expense in perpetuity. So I just can't support that.
Okay. I think we're probably there. Councillor Patterson, one other word?
If I may. So something else for us to consider is how much this community has actually already started to advance almost a complete safe route from one side of town to the other. As someone who loves to golf, I mean, I wish we could go all the way that way, but we're basically saying that this limited stretch, it's really not that much when you think of the consideration of how much has been built and what we're actually asking just to assess. I don't think it's a significant portion. And when we talk about capacity, and Mr. Dewar can correct me if I'm wrong, we're actually talking about funding for a study for someone else to do it. Staff are exceptional at doing RFPs. And I understand that RFPs actually take a lot of work in some instances, but I don't foresee this being one of those. And again, when I look at the active transportation plan, there's not a whole lot that I can say outside of what the community has done versus what we've done. And I say that with all the love in my heart. This is that chance. This is our opportunity. It's just an assessment. It's non-committal. Think about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Patterson. Okay, I'm going to bring us back to the recommendation, and the recommendation is fairly simple. It just is asking staff to provide a report to council with more information referencing the delegation that we had today. And I think now we've said all we have to say. I'm going to call the vote. So all in favor? And opposed? The vote or the motion is defeated with Councillor Leonard, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Buikema, and Councillor Ray opposed. All right, thanks everyone. Okay, next item, the recommendation following the Smithers Skate Park Society presentation, which is the same recommendation referencing the different delegation. Councillor Raven moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Buikema seconds. Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That one carries unanimously. Chris. Okay, we are at 14.3. Report from Ms. Smith, the regular action tracking approval with a recommendation that we can relabel it and archive the old. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Elliott. Councillor Leonard.
I just have a question, and you may have answered this before, but when I was reading through it, a lot of the resolutions are duplicated and triplicated, and I was just confused as to why that was.
Ms. Smith.
List reflects action tracking associated with the resolutions. So there are instances where there are multiple actions assigned to a resolution.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion on the floor? Oh, Councillor Ray, sorry.
Well, this goes back to what I was just saying. You look at this is the motions from 6 months and the amount of work that the staff has to do. There's duplicates and triplicates of people working on our motions. So this is the kind of thing that I'm talking.
Yep. We do have the motion on the floor, don't we? Okay. Not seeing anything else. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. I guess we could take it as like, we got cool staff and they do a lot of stuff. So gonna throw that out there. Okay, 14.4 report from Mr. Schroeder, recommendation on council remuneration policy. Councillor Urban moves, Councillor Elliott seconds. Any discussion? Councillor Ray.
So same message as last time. I would have much preferred a citizens assembly. That was what was called for in the previous policy, but staff has said don't have the capacity to do it. So I'll support it. I do have a couple of things. I think I regretted last time because we're fixing the remuneration for the next council. So this doesn't really have anything to do with us. It may if we get reelected, but really it doesn't. We're setting the future direction. So one thing that I kind of regretted that we were looking for ways to support more diversity in council, and that doesn't mean racial diversity, it means diversity of life experiences, which also goes there. So we added a little bit of babysitting money, but we really didn't look at a big change to how we did things. So to that end, and I don't know if staff would like this in a motion, but I would actually like this report to include. So right now we have, if we want council on UBCM medical plans, we have to vote, and at least 3 people have to need it in order to get it. I would like them to look at perhaps getting just on the town one if people need it. And the other thing I'd like to look at is if it's possible for councillors, but especially the mayor, to participate in the municipal pension plan. I guess that would probably be the exempt staff since council is not union. But when I think about, I don't want to be the mayor. I enjoy being the deputy mayor. But when I think about myself being the mayor, one thing I would have to give up is my full-time job with a pension. So it doesn't, like, I think it needs to be a recognition that this is more than a volunteer job. It takes up way more time than it did when I started. And I just think that maybe if there's a way to participate in the pension, that might be a good thing. Not everybody's going to make it through 5 or 6 terms, but it's just even an exploration of that. If that can be in the scope, if it can't be in the scope, I guess not. But those are 2 things that I kind of maybe thought about looking at in this as well.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Mr. Dewar.
Yeah, staff has heard the comments. I don't think that we need a resolution reflecting that right now. When we do go out for tender on this, and as we start working as a consultant, if council does provide that direction, we certainly can bring these forward as considerations.
Thanks, Mr. Dewar. Anyone else? Councillor Leonard?
A question and then a comment. My question is this a normal practice for every term?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
Well, having a review is a normal practice since I've been on council. Councillor Ray.
So it didn't used to be the practice to do it for the next council. We did it for ourselves a few times. And when you're making, well, I think I was 8,000 when I started, it doesn't take much for you to get into a 30 or 40%, but that ends up increase, and that's what ends up being the headline. And so this way, we're not enriching ourselves in any way, shape, or form. We're trying to make it so that the next council there are not many barriers to participating in council.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Councillor Leonard.
Okay, thank you for that. I have a different opinion than Councillor Ray. I think it is mainly a volunteer position, and the spirit of pay and remuneration is a stipend, and always has been. And I think in more than just our community, it is that way, and should remain that way. That's my opinion. So I wouldn't think that we should be looking at extra benefits.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Raven.
I think one thing that we really have to be aware of is we're supposed to be reflective of our community. And when I look around this table, I don't think that we necessarily are, because we are able to take time away from our jobs without having the power get shut off. And I have been that person that has had to work 3 jobs to literally just make it through the month. And I know for a fact, as much as I would have loved to have had a role like this when I was doing that, it would have been impossible. So it is a bit sad that I am able to be in this position because I have been able, or that I am blessed with a job where I am able to take time off of it. And I would actually like to see more diversity. And I do think that, to be honest, when I think about the amount of time that I put in a week, I'm doing 20 to 30 hours sometimes in my council role. And no, I don't do it for the money, but I definitely recognize that for a lot of people, they would not have the capacity or the ability to do that, even though they should be sitting where we're sitting. And I would love to hear those views. So I don't know where this will end up, but I definitely want to just make sure that people are being compensated for their time and perhaps opening that door to get that little bit more of a different lived experience, because I think that honestly, we are fairly one-sided around this table. We all have places of privilege that we come from. So I would like to just, and getting that unbiased review, like I definitely prefer having it done by an independent contractor because they understand the scope of the work. Because a lot of people, I get the messages and the emails where it's like, wow, you traipse around to community events and you're on council for the travel and the perks. And I'm like, no. So that's where I don't agree with the Citizens Committee, because people don't understand the work we do. I mean, looking at our agenda tonight, how many pages is that? And you read it at least 3 or 4 times before a meeting, right? So I like having the third-party contractor, but I definitely want to get that review done and come from a place where we are increasing that diversity around this table. And I like what Councilor Ray brought up about the pension. Honestly, the childcare amount is a pittance. Like, it's $100 a month. My daughter babysits. I know how much she gets paid. That would be 1.5 council meetings, maybe. So, but yeah, I just think that we're putting up barriers to people that would be valuable to have around this table that aren't able to be here because of money.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Mr. Dewar, and then I see Councillor Beekman.
Yeah, and I was just going to remind council that for tonight, it's certainly just looking at the process for doing a remuneration review. And I think, as has already been mentioned, you know, doing a remuneration review prior for an incoming council tends to be best practices, just so it's not, it's better publicly received or perceived, I guess I should say. And so that's one, certainly, you know, if council does choose to have a third-party consultant do it, they'll look at industry standards and best practices, and they'll bring forth recommendations. And I think that will be certainly the point where there will be certainly a lot of opportunity for debate. But this one is kind of more looking at what process do we want to move with, establishing the committee for review, or else establishing or hiring a contractor to do it.
Thanks, Mr. Dewar. Councillor Beekman.
Thanks, Mayor Attrell. I'm not, personally, I'm not concerned about the stipend I receive as a counselor, but I still feel that the mayor is not paid near enough for the amount of time the mayor spends doing the job. And if there's any part of the remuneration I would like to have looked at, it's what pay the mayor receives. I think if we would take the amount of hours our mayor spends and divide it into $35,964, you're probably making less than minimum wage. So that'd be what I'd like to see looked at.
Councillor Leonard.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Ms. Smith.
We have a motion on the floor. Raven moved and Elliott seconded.
I'll take that as voting then.
I like it. Move us along.
Councillor Ray, are you voting? You want to talk? Councillor Ray?
I just wanted to provide a counterpoint to Councillor Leonard. We're obviously biased. We're doing the job. I've been doing the job for the stipend for 5 terms now. It probably wouldn't stop me if I want to run again, if the stipend stayed the same. But that's what we're getting. And I think as society is changing, you ask a younger person to do a volunteer job, they ask what's in it for them. And maybe we don't think that's right. But the other thing is that I'm not asking for anything other than just some other ways to look at compensation. If the recommendation is that we bump the stipend back a bit and get to participate in the pension, or get those people that don't have medical coverage to get that, that's okay. I just want to be clear, I'm not complaining about it. And that's what they look at. They look at comparables and stuff, but I just want to have a little bit different way of looking at it.
Did you, okay, Councillor Elliott.
I think I never really got elected for the stipend either. I think my hang up earlier on in life was having small children. It wasn't the money. That's why I have more time to do the things I want to do. And it's not that I resent my children, but this is just a fact of life that you don't have the time. And I wasn't a single parent, and I feel bad for people who maybe can't do the things they want to do. But I don't know if we can replace people's incomes to the fullest extent that they need it replaced if they have to go on council business or do council things. But I do also agree that the mayor doesn't get paid enough as well. So I don't put in 30 to 40, 20 to 30 hours a week. I do read my agendas quite often, and but I wouldn't say that it's making me starve doing this right now.
Okay, I'm just gonna chime in just on sort of other considerations. I support the recommendation, and I will, I think it is time to have someone with an outside view look at it. We've done, in my time, we've used the Citizens Committee a couple of times with varying feedback. I think now is a good time simply because this is an issue across the province, probably in other provinces as well. UBCM has been asked to look at it. The province has been asked to look at it. You know, and we talked about this in terms of work facing our staff, that there are requests that come that are kind of like an if you want and kind of not really like an if you want, and they land on council too, and they certainly land in my office where there's an expectation you're going to show up for things. And because probably what motivated us all to run in the first place is you're trying to do a good job. And so when you get an invitation, you know, that's, you know, like a hard invitation that says you can represent your community at something, I think we all want to be there. And so the job is just changing, and it's affecting communities across the province. So I think having someone do it like this with the connections to what UBCM is doing, what is the province doing, what are other communities doing, is just, it's a good time to do it. All of these come back to council for vote in the end. And it's not uncommon at local government meetings for elected officials to chastise themselves for their inability to vote yes for things like this, and then later to face the consequences of it. So some local governments have tackled the benefits program, some don't. At the end of the day, it's always up to council. And, you know, at the end of the day, we get what we say we're worth. That's how it works. So if at the end of the day, and, you know, Councillor Ray has referred to this in the past, if councillors have a terrible stipend and terrible conditions of work, it's like we actually set that for ourselves. So I think having someone make recommendations with like, here's how you fit, here's kind of what's happening, and then over to you. It always comes back to the table for a vote, but I support the process. Okay, let's vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. 14.5, report from Ms. Goodrick on a letter of support request from the Smithers Men's Shed with the recommendation. Councillor Patterson, you're moving the recommendation? Yeah, okay, seconder, Councillor Raven. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. 14.6 from Ms. LeBlanc, recommendation regarding the Smithers Steelhead Hockey Association Center ice logo request. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Buikema, did you want to speak to it?
No, I just don't.
Okay, okay. Any comments? Councillor Raven?
So I know that we were reviewing the advertising for the arenas, and that seems to be coming up often. So do we have a timeline-ish?
Yeah, so staff did bring it to council, and council did through resolution say that staff has a grace period till June 2026. So we'll be following this hockey season or ice user season, sorry.
Oops. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. 14.7 from Mr. Allen, Town Hall Storage Room Offices Contract Award, recommendation 2 pieces. Councillor Buikema, Councillor Patterson, questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Thanks staff for moving that along. Okay, that's the 14th. How's everyone doing? You good? Okay, up to the 16s and bylaws. So 16.1. Oh, thought your hand was up. Where are we? Bylaw 1991 for adoption. Counselor Ray. Counselor Raven. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. And sorry, that is regarding an amendment for a specific property for short-term rental. So we're finally wrapping that one up. And 16.2, bylaw 1999, Parks and Open Spaces bylaw with the amendment. Counselor Ray.
Move first reading.
Thank you. Counselor Patterson, you had your hand up? Okay, that's a seconder. All in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. And second reading, Counselor Patterson, Counselor Ray. Any discussion? Counselor Ray.
I just want to thank staff for bringing this forward and for note that it's been through legal advice. So I'm fairly solid. Certain we're on solid ground. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the changes.
Thanks, Counselor Ray. Anyone else? Okay, and all in favor? Opposed, and that's carried unanimously. In third reading, please, Counselor Ray, Counselor Raven. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thanks. So that will come back for adoption. And we're up to correspondence, then 17.1 from assessment, BC assessment. Wanting to know if we want to talk to them. Counselor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question through to Mr. Dewar. I believe that when the original invitation had come through email, I'd made a request. Does that still, do you need a motion, I guess is my question.
Yes, please.
So I guess for me, the reason why I wanted us to meet with them specifically was just the amount of conversations that we've had around the table around taxation and the BC assessment approach. So with that, I'd like to move that council direct staff to coordinate with BC assessment to meet with them during UBCM. Thank you.
You have that in, writing, I think, eh?
I do, Your Worship.
Okay, I'm just thinking for staff, if quick email afterwards, but we'll get a seconder, get it on the floor. Is there a seconder? Counselor Raven seconds. Okay, discussion. Counselor Ray.
Just, I don't know if staff's looking for an actual topic. But my suggestion would be just a discussion on how BCA assessment does things and how it's affected our community for businesses and the auto dealers. And I think, you know, we can advocate a bit, but I think it might be just educational for us to at least report back to our constituents. Okay, this is how it works. Do we want to change it, et cetera?
Anyone else? It's my recollection that BC assessment comes to see us once a term as well. It feels to me like I've had a couple of presentations this term from BC assessment, once at NCLGA and once here at this table. Is that ringing true for folks? Yeah, you remember? So I'm not opposed. It's a complex sort of system that they do, but we might want to keep that in mind as well if this doesn't pan out for whatever reason, schedules. I think they're quite agreeable to coming and explaining things, and it might actually be a nice one on a public agenda that we push a little bit so that other people can also see how assessment does its work. But just for information. Okay, any other comments from Mr. Dorr? Mr. Dorr, is that enough info for you? Okay, that was like a shake your head no, but thumbs up. Okay, good. Keep us guessing. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And then you can get the words of the motion from Councillor Patterson. Okay, good. Okay, 17.2. Oh, right. A letter from Ms. Newton talking about the condition of the woods or bush around New Heim Elementary. There is a request. It's a tough one, but let's open the table if council has a, pardon me? Questions, Councillor Raven?
So the area that is circled, that is the snow dump lot, correct?
Not quite. It's predominantly Crown lands. A little bit of it may be part of our property.
Councillor Raven, when you look at that, if you look at Dominion and you look at Alberta, so our lot is the block that starts in Alberta. Like the one that's all patchy, that's the snow dump.
Yeah, okay, because that's why I was just a bit confused because I wasn't aware that that was town land. So I was just thinking, I was just wondering if I was just really confused because I'm not sure if we can even really do town signage or anything on Crown land that is not ours. So that's just if we have a staff thoughts on that.
Mr. Dewar?
Yeah, so presently our community safety officer staff have been working with RCMP as well as we've been having conversations with the province and other stakeholders as how to best protect or create safe spaces in there and how to best manage those lands. And so there is active conversations occurring, and there will be likely a report coming back to council anyhow. So for this one, if there's if council wishes, certainly just refer it to staff and we'll bring it back at some point.
Go ahead.
I'd like to refer the letter to staff.
Is there a second? I'm going to take that as a motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Buikema. Just because I generally support the kind of uncertain timeline. I think in this case, I'll just ask for your view on this about just reaching out to Newheim School just to say that something, we heard you and we have the letter, just sort of the response.
Yep, staff can respond to the letter writer.
Okay, yeah, just so it doesn't hang in the wind. Councillor Ray.
Well, and I'm happy to hear back from staff because I know staff is working, but that's been an ongoing concern for quite some time. I'm not really too sure, as long as there's a homeless crisis, as long as there's a drug epidemic, that is going to be a safe place to take children in to learn about nature, unfortunately. I get that it's the only one within walking distance, but we do have places like the wetlands, Willowvale Marsh, that could be, they're fairly clean and safe. So, you know, even something in the meantime, here's some other things that you could do. I know it's not really walking distance for children, but maybe it's a bus trip. It would be nice. But when I was in elementary school, there was a woods next to our school and it wasn't safe to go in. So it's definitely not a new problem.
Okay. Any other comments? Did we have, oh yeah, the motions for first staff. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay, 18s. Anything you want to pull out of there? Councillor Patterson.
18-3, your worship, please.
Okay, oh, that's not working. 18-3, any others? Pardon? Okay, 18-3, I'll start with Councillor Patterson and then Councillor Raven.
Thank you, your worship. So it was just interesting that in our original request or letter to ICBC, we were interested in talking about the ISP program, unless I missed it, which happens when you're a new mom and extremely tired all the time. But I didn't see a response in there at all to ISP. So I would just be interested in taking them up on their offer to coordinate. But I would be looking for a little bit of advice from our CAO in that they make a number of offers and I don't want to get specific in what I would like to see. But for example, one of the offers that I did like was the safety review. So basically they're suggesting that they would coordinate with staff. So for example, on page 1 of 2, and their response under safety studies, there's 3 bullets. So the second and the third, I'll just draw your attention to that. So essentially saying that there's an opportunity for applications for studies should be brought forward to ICBC for locations that the municipality is considering for short-term improvement. So my motion that I'm not making at this time would just be that I would like to see what that might look like, but I recognize that we have significant projects on the go. So I might just leave it at that and just see if my blabbering is making sense.
Yeah, so with this one, I'd like to bring it back to, staff that have greater expertise on some of these matters. And so if council is looking to move forward with any of these activities, I may sound like a broken record, but refer to staff, please.
Councillor Raven first, Councillor Raven.
So I was just happy to get a response, and I did know because when they referenced that the specific program we were referring to is being looked at right now, which is why she highlighted the survey, which I believe I sent out to everybody. So I'm not keen to refer to staff because I think this would be kind of starting a whole new process that we actually haven't started. So it'd just be, I'm just concerned about capacity. The one thing that I did note was there is the offer again about handing out the reflectors. So one question I had is, would this be something I'd reach out to Ms. Hoffman individually, or would that be more of like the council as a whole thing? Sorry.
I think I would prefer if it's a council thing rather than councillors. That's just my perspective, so that everyone has an opportunity. We could, the royal we, could just let her know that we're interested in being contacted and having something maybe relating to that a little less formal. Mr. Dew, I'm not sure if you had a different perspective. Okay, so I'm just going to try to circle us back here a little bit. So that's one piece. Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Rain. I'm going to come back to Councillor Patterson. We're circling a little bit.
Well, I know some of the, so if it's in town purvey, the staff already works with the ministry and with ICBC on things that they think are unsafe. I think what started it was the running the red lights on the highway, which is, I don't know, I'm assuming it's mostly highways, but one power we do have is to ask the RCMP to prioritize. I don't know if we can ask if the highway safety division can start issuing tickets. If we feel that that's, that's something that's entirely within our control that doesn't have to involve staff. The next time the RCMP does an annual plan, we could ask for that.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would really just love to refer to staff because, to be honest, I worry that a lot of why I want to do this is just because now that I have been on maternity leave for almost a year and a half, and I am out every single day multiple times, and how many near misses I see and how many red lights I see, how many children are being blown, pardon me, how many children I almost see get hit at crosswalks. Like, I'm so irate that I can't stay calm about it. So I worry about how impartial I can be. So I would love to be able to refer to staff so that, to Mr. Dewar's point, we can hear from the experts to get the data to say what is actually happening in our community. Because when I think about service levels, community safety is my number one. As of late, unfortunately, there have been some really significant impacts due to traffic safety or lack thereof. So again, I'll just leave it at that and say I would just love to refer to staff to hear a bit more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One more time, I can't remember if we have a motion on the floor. No, we don't. Okay. I have a question of curiosity before you make a motion, if you don't mind. Not sure if this is to Mr. Dewar or Mr. Allen. Sorry, as a preamble, I think getting information from the RCMP and the Highway Patrol, that's probably a request we could make fairly simply. Whether or not we get the information is different, but we could ask the detachment to provide us information. And I just thought I'd ask, probably it is to Mr. Allen, what the interplay is between staff, if there is any, and either a program, these programs, or with ICBC, or is that as requested? We had a successful installation of the special push button things for cyclists. And so I know that occasionally we have very concentrated contact in order to make things happen, but is there anything that is ongoing? Mr. Allen?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Attrell. I can give council some insight on that. But first of all, just on the bicycle buttons at both at Main Street and King Street, those were actually installed by Ministry of Transportation, so not with ICBC. Not funding support at least, but their traffic engineers are involved with most installations on the highway, including active transportation. But yeah, staff, myself, the Director of Operations and the CSOs do attend semi-annual traffic safety meetings, which are sponsored by ICBC. And we meet at the Access Center with RCMP, all the emergency service providers and the highway contractor as well, and discuss both high priority items with each agency, both in the town boundaries and in the region itself. So I can say that the incidents at the intersections on the highway in town have not come up at the most recent meetings. They're usually in April and October. So we'll have another one in October, and I'll bring this I'll make sure this is on the agenda just to see if there is any new developments at the intersections, or with if the RCMP have experienced an uptake on speeding or running red lights at the intersections.
And so then we can have that report back or the information back after the next meeting. Okay.
Yeah, I typically don't report out on that to council, but ICBC usually makes an annual trip out to present to council, and they keep all the statistics on in fact, it's public information now. You can access statistics, just public information for accidents on the highway, I believe. But they can meet similar to the RCMP updates. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. And I'm going to go back to Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship. I think just hearing what Mr. Allen has said makes me feel a bit better. There's a venue to raise those concerns, so I think that doesn't make it necessary to respond, but I'm really grateful to ICBC in hearing that there are things that we can do. So hopefully as a next step, we can explore that once we hear back from the next meeting. And I apologize, Mr. Allen, when's the next one?
It'll be the first week in October. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, if you think whatever pieces there you're able to share with us or alert us when new information is there, that would help. And then just getting back to what Councillor Raven was talking about. So probably this is just a simple response to Ms. Hoffman. Would it take something off your plate if I said I'll just email her and say we're interested when she's in town? Or well, she's probably working with the CSOs at any rate. I think last time it involved the CSOs. So I'll just send an email though, and it'll happen. So I can share everything with council when I know what's happening. How's that? And then staff don't have to write a letter. Okay. That's a me thing. Pull that one out. Okay. There were no other numbers, so I think we're there. All right. Thanks, everyone. Lots of conversation. Some was anticipated, and then there was the odd issue that came up. So thanks for the good chat going around the gym. We are, so nobody can go home. Just saying, you can take a little break. A motion, just help me with this. Am I adjourning the open? Okay, we are going up. We're having a procedure moment. Okay. We'll just take a recess. I'll take a motion to recess. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bucama, all in favor? Thank you. And so you can take a few minutes and then we'll regroup. Thanks, folks. For the sake of anyone who is watching us on the live stream, we are recessing, but we're going into close, so we are going to close the live stream. So thanks for joining us.